interesting, smart comment. Dr. Taraban has a similar outlook on the current state of dating. That's a response to my dating video. He recommends that men establish a sizable online presence related to their niche and let women come to them accordingly. But I'm personally of the mind that by the time that I gain an audience large enough to attract multiple women, I'll be both less likely to commit just to one woman and more wary of women using me in general. This also explains why so many social media personalities continue to remain single. I think the better approach is to put yourself in a niche spaces like animal shelters, book clubs, yoga classes, etc., where people that you're compatible with are more likely to be. You will naturally meet potential partners that way, and even if you don't, you will almost certainly find people that you get along with at least, and perhaps enjoy yourself doing so. It's not that uncommon for friends to set up other friends as potential lovers, and I think that type of romantic initiation would have a far better success rate than anything that the internet can offer. I like this comment a lot, and I like because it makes me think and refine what I was gonna say and what I'm about to say and what I believe. So in the toxic metaframing video, I explained a little bit already about libido empowerment. And here comes something interesting, so we're gonna go a little bit deeper. Now this is bear with me again. So I have another neologism. It's called what did I call it? I haven't used that term for a long time. It's called how come I forgot the name? It's called stress. It's funny. I have it written down somewhere. Like I have a book written about this. What is it called when a woman is trying to marry up, like to a higher status? Hypergamy. I have a word which is called hypergamy stress. And hypergamy stress is based on the cyclical nature of what a woman desires depending on menstruation or what do you call it in English? Ovulation, menstruation, ovulation. So the man will feel an more intense hypergamic stress during moments where she is closer to ovulation. That's natural, okay? Especially the beta male who is hypersensitive will definitely sense that. It's definitely existent. It doesn't matter if you're hypersensitive or not, but it's existent. But the more hypersensitive you are, the more you will feel hypergamy stress. Because women are, this is an absolute fact. Women are tuned to this and they cannot even avoid it. It's like as if you said, men should stop producing sperm. It's not going to happen. And the same way women are in their hypergamy, they will induce stress in the partner that they're with, or the partners that are interested in her, because she during ovulation will try to keep more options open to more masculine men. A lot of that stuff is scientifically proven, but a lot of it also is observed by me from past relationships. It definitely exists. So I call this hypergamy stress. It's like another neologism. And it's a very real thing. And so here's an interesting part. If you're like me, who's tends to more like the better provider rather than the, masculine fuckboy, then even though in your mind you might be an alpha, but in reality you are not in the eyes of the woman, then the hypergamic stress might be a little bit higher. Depends, of course, on the woman, but it will always be in some form or fashion. It will always be there. And what I'm saying is, if you have more options, that means you allow yourself more libido empowerment, more joy, and more sexuality, then she will not be as overtly pushing you into hypergamic stress, because you won't feel as if you don't have anyone. meaning you are more leveled with the woman because a woman has as many options as she wants. But if you are not well known within the field of your profession or even outside, then you'll probably not have those options. So you would have to be extremely extroverted and be a lot outside to have only a little bit equal options as a woman has. So I'm gonna go through the different, things that the person commented. I really like this comment, and I'm gonna show you why it makes more sense to have the online dating part, okay, rather than the offline dating part. So again, Dr. Taraban has a similar outlook to the current state of dating. He recommends men to establish a sizable online presence related to their niche and let women come to them accordingly. That's exactly what I'm saying, but I'm personally of the mind that by the time that I gain an audience large enough to attract multiple women, I'll be both less likely to commit to just one woman. And thank you very much. We'll go deep into that. Thanks to the commenter. I'll be both less likely to commit just one woman or more wary of women using in general. I'm a little bit more different in that sense. I mean, you're not obligated to focus yourself on one woman, just as many women don't focus nowadays on one man. But what I'm going to say is, even if you focus on only one woman, knowing for a fact that you can have more than one woman will psychologically set you up much better in whatever relationship you are in. And it's an unconscious leverage. You don't want to use it consciously, but it's definitely an unconscious leverage that you constantly have. And the thing is that a woman just knows. And I do have a couple of things to say about this. Like, we as men, we are not necessarily interested in women because other men are interested in them. We are mostly interested in women because they have certain looks, right? Or there are certain behaviors. Whereas women are very much interested in the men that every other woman wants. Okay, and men don't have that. Some men might, but in general, it's not such a big factor for selection. So when you have a lot of options as a man, because you're well established online, you will always have a higher attraction. She will more often feel sexually attracted to you than if you don't have that, and to a very large degree. Like, it makes a huge difference. You could call it just, sometimes I call it the Tom Cruise factor, like the success factor, just enjoying what you're doing, really being successful in what you're doing, and women naturally being drawn to that. That's a massive attraction factor. It's basically like if you saw, a woman in a red skirt and a perfect, body, walking down the street, and you looking at her and saying like, oh, I want her. It's the same thing, but with men, it's of course looks can do the same thing for women, but most men don't have these looks, and women definitely are interested in much more than just looks. In not always, but it's becoming more superficial. But that kind of like the basic mechanism of attraction for women still remains the same. So when you say I'll be less likely to commit to just one woman, it's an interesting thing because there is a truth behind this, that once you have options, you feel like you don't want to be just with one person. And I think that's an interesting observation about men in general. I think men who are tremendously successful, they tend to not to be with just one woman. And I think it's but I think you have to be like, almost like used to having as many as you want, I think. And to know that it's something that you can actually pull off. And I have something that I'm going to talk about as well, because from my tantric sessions, I did have several sessions where two women were there at the same time. And I learned something about myself through that, which before I didn't know. One of them is I truly love being with a bisexual woman because other women can come in. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's something I didn't know. When I was young, this is such an interesting evolution of your own psyche and understanding of yourself. When I was young, I was that only gonna sleep with women that I'm in love with. That was when I was like 20 something. And then later I started fooling around here, fooling around there, understanding women more and so forth. And it started to expand. Like it continually kept expanding until I realized I love being with two women at the same time. But I mean, I love being with two women at the same time in a tantric setting. And I've experienced this maybe a dozen times. So I understand the difference energetically. And that was an interesting observation. At one point, I realized why I get bored after 3 months in a relationship, because I maybe like or love my girlfriend, but I want some other woman also to be part of, that life and that experience. And so that's something that I learned about myself. And I think it's also hidden in this comment. So if I would be successful in the sense that I can attract multiple women, that's what he says here, I'll be less likely to commit just one woman. And I think that's typical of men. I think it allows you to look deeper, and be honest to what you really want. So it's very interesting. We'll definitely talk more about this in this stream. And then he says, I'm more wary of women using me in general. I don't think. That just depends, if you're very successful in the sense you become rich. But I have to also stress something. I think we as men, although we love to have genuine love naturally, I think we should also enjoy and play with the idea that we're a provider. Not in a simping way, of course, but that if you have friends and if you have lovers and if you have partners that you really like and love, support them financially if you can. And don't think about whether you're being used. And I think that's a little bit of a spiritual thing. Can you give and not want anything back? Because if you don't want anything back, you really truly give from the heart, then you don't really feel used. I mean, you don't want to marry if you're hyper successful. That's just setting yourself up for failure. But I think it also has to do a lot with what you project to the outside, what kind of women you pull in. That's why also I talked about toxic metaframing, because it allows you to recognize toxic people right from the start. And I have right now one female friend, which is my best friend basically, and I really like how she sees the world, how she sees herself, and how she has a good morals. And while still being free and allowing herself, whatever gives her joy. And I think that if you learn to really distinguish people from toxic to non-toxic, then it doesn't matter how famous or how rich you are, you can pretty quickly distinguish. But honestly, a lot of men do not have the talent or the ability to distinguish toxic from non-toxic women. Sometimes it surprises me. It's why would you go out with this woman? She's absolutely toxic, and they don't see it. So I can understand that you would be wary of women, but at the same time, are you really going to have success with women if you are not successful and well positioned? I don't think so. And there's statistics which show that, mostly men who earn more tend to be married and tend to have strong, longer relationships. I think that's just because that's the name of the game. I mean, if you look in biology, this is something also very interesting. I'm just gonna finish this and then I'll get into the comments. If you look in biology, men do tremendous amounts of investments. For example, there's this bird species that I saw on video where the woman, the female part, closes herself off in a tree for 6 months to birth the children. and he will provide her with berries for over 6 months. So he's investing for over 6 months and basically providing all the food. And I think that if you look into biology, you will see that it's absolutely normal for the man to want, need, and have resources and then give those resources to women. And that's basically what simping is. It's just that simping is giving something without getting nothing in return. It's almost like a hot-wired brain, male brain. Something went wrong there. But it's basically, it's a natural phenomenon for men, biological, I think, phenomenon for men to provide in that sense. And I think it's good. It can give you a good feeling. But and there's nothing that says, I mean, I'm gonna go a little bit avant-garde, radical right now. There's nothing that says that even in modern lifestyle, why you should only be with one woman. If you have a woman that accepts another woman, and some women do, depending on which state they're in, what they're interested in life, and especially if you're hyper famous or hyper well positioned, yeah. But I think it's good to think about this. Like, so if the ideal situation would put you in a position where you could have many women, how do you feel? Do you want many women? Do you want just one woman? And really be honest to yourself and look at that. And that tells a lot about you. It's like the same thing, like if I had 10 million on my bank account, how would I live my life? So kind of like that question. And then you say, this explains why so many social media personalities continue to remain single. I feel that a lot of social media personalities are actually not single. Think about, I think Joe Rogan has a relationship and children. Not sure. I think, do we have some male influencers? Jordan Peterson definitely is married, but he was married before he got famous. That's good. I think there's a lot of them that do have someone. Now, Dr. Taraban almost seems like he doesn't have a girlfriend, but that's because he exudes too much beta energy. I mean, he's extremely beta. So even when he's super authentic and showing himself on the internet, I think it's tough for him, because he has that kind of Eckhart Tolle kind of vibe around him. It makes it very difficult, I think, to attract a woman if he's interested in women. Yeah. You said, I'm confused. I have a 10 years relationship and being 5 years single. I don't know what should I do to find love. That's what we're talking about now. We're talking basically about showing yourself on the internet, creating your own kind of online persona, not in dating profiles, but more like in your business area, or just, talking about who you are on social media. For example, one thing that I did, and it's interesting to observe, I put out a video which said something like, "Are Asian women the better partners?" And then I bought, for 30 euros, I bought, what do you call it? Advertising on Instagram to women in the Philippines. And it went pretty well. And I think I have like 1,000 likes or something, a couple hundred comments or something. And women are, responding and following my account. And my inbox is full. My DM inbox is full. Not saying these women are particularly interesting to me, but so I just want to say, like, you have tremendous amount of options that are far more than just Tinder. And this is what a lot of people don't realize. They basically download only these dating apps, wonder why they get no matches, get depressed, and that's the only option they see. Now, I understand a lot of people have trouble being showing their face and showing their authentic self. But I think everything in life needs an investment if you want to get something out. It's with your stock portfolio, with, business, it's wherever you go with relationships. So unless you invest in something, you're not going to get anything out. You have to like seed and saw, reap and saw. No, saw and reap. If you want to harvest, you need the seeds. And then he says, I think the bread approach is to put yourself in a niche space, animal shelters, book clubs, yoga classes, where people that... The problem is, there's an interesting problem that if you have enough people that are interested in you, you can vet them and you can be like, okay, what's your background? What do you do? And so forth. Whereas if you go to these kind of like shelters, whatever, a lot of times these women are they are either no income or low income. So if you go to an animal shelter, a book club, a yoga classes may be a little bit better, but a lot of these women are social losers. And what I mean by that is that they have some kind of problems in life. And when you meet one person in a yoga class, let's say, then maybe she has, maybe she came to yoga because she has some mental problems or something. You don't know. I mean, usually always meet people that have some kind of problems. And you recognize pretty quickly that that's not fit for a relationship. And I think that and it's a little bit like in hit miss and the opportunities are too few. But when you are very well positioned on the internet and you get many responses, then you can start to vet and be like, okay, this is what I truly want. And sometimes you just need to also do a video like, I like women that so and so, and then women can be like, okay, this is not for me, or this is for me, or whatever. And I think being open, being authentic, and just having the guts to do it is already a great thing. And now comes the most important part. I think that by positioning yourself on the internet, you're also at the same time building a business, and you're building a platform. You're building a platform from which you can do other things. For example, one of my goals is to build a spiritual camping site, maybe in Portugal, okay? And if I'm able to grow my channels to, say, 50, 100,000 users per channel, just in theory, then of course if I launch then a spiritual camping site like that, I can immediately fill it with people. Like immediately people will come from all over the world to check it out. And so it kind of like fits into everything. But if I start to go to animal shelters, book clubs, and yoga classes, okay, this is going to sound stupid, but it's real. Especially when you get older, you realize this. You can waste a lot of time. Like you can hang around, okay, this is going to sound stupid, but you can hang around losers in animal shelters, losers in book clubs, losers in yoga classes. They don't have to be losers. I'm just saying like losers in the sense like they make your life more difficult. And I find that the perfect partner brings harmony into your higher harmony, into your relationship and into your life, and brings something to your relationship. Bring something that makes your life better in some way. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it shouldn't be a negative balance. The person that comes into your life should bring you something that improves your life a little bit or a lot. But if they make it worse, it's not worth it. And a lot of people make your life worse if you bring them into your life. And I think that the chances of someone random in these kind of animal shelters and book clubs and yoga classes, how it's like I met a woman at a yoga class in France and we hugged at the end and we had really good energy. We had really, really good energy. There were like 20 people there. We were the only ones left staying. Everyone already left, locked up the yoga studio, and we were standing in front of the yoga studio in nature, and we started hugging. And the energy was so good that I actually was sexually activated. Let's just say it like that. But she didn't have that fine feeling, that fine intuition of feeling that energy, I think she felt overwhelmed. And then I think when I, at some point, maybe I spoke about Tantra, I don't know, that I was a Tantra master. And I think for a French woman, I think she was totally overwhelmed. And it was too much for her, and I never saw her again. And I think that what I'm saying is because you can meet someone at these places, but it doesn't mean that it's a good partner. And the thing is with having very strong online presence, there's so much you can say and so much the other person can know about you that there is already some kind of compatibility and there's some kind of desire. And this is a huge thing, and this is something that that I truly believe in. When the woman picks you, I think the relationship is going to be better than if the man picks the woman. And when you are online, she's picking you first. Because you're saying, okay, if you like me, you can contact me. But if you go to a yoga studio and you have to speak to the woman, you're picking the woman. And you don't really know if she's interested in you. Maybe she's picking you because she doesn't have anyone else right now. She feels lonely. I mean, women, I don't know. I'm a very strong individual, I believe, mentally. And if a woman comes to me, wants to be with me, but I feel it's not the right woman, I'll let her know. But I feel a lot of times women take guys because they cannot be alone, or or she just likes the attention and so forth. But I'm so centered that I don't need attention from a woman. I mean, yeah. The know-it-all, laugh my ass off, yoga's demons. By the way, there's a toxic meta frame right here. The know-it-all, laugh my ass off, is actually a toxic meta frame, and you feel free to watch my video that I just uploaded today about toxic meta frames, and so you understand where these kind of insults are coming from. And this is a very clear example of a direct verbal toxic meta frame. The know-it-all, laugh my ass off. So if you want to understand this, and usually I completely physically cut away from people who talk like this, who are toxic meta framers. But online I allow it because it gives me better engagement on the algorithm. And I tested this on my largest channel, and it really worked. So if I leave the toxic comments on, the channel gets, and the videos get more reach. But otherwise, in a normal setting, like in real life, I would completely avoid someone like this Chuck guy. I tried to have a tantric massage with a man. Okay, you don't have to. You say you tried. You don't have to. So yeah, I should also make. I'm trying to avoid in my title videos like tantric massage and stuff, because I don't want to mess up the algorithm, and I want to have a lot over time a big reach. If you start to use these words like tantra in the title, the reach is immediately blocked. Yeah, so you have to be aware of a lot of like details on the algorithm. So yeah, so that was the response to that. So I feel that even though you might go to clubs which have similar interests, and it's definitely not a bad idea if you would do it anyway. Let's say you want to go play tennis and you go into a tennis club, I don't know, just saying, or golf, and you would do it anyway, then it's of course fine. If you would do yoga anyway, it's fine. But I wouldn't go to these places just to speak to women, because actually you might find out that none of them are compatible for you anyway, and it's not necessarily that beneficial. But one thing that I'd like to say, and I that's something I didn't know in a way, and I think it's really good information for guys who are single. Because let's be honest, most of the work has to be done by men in the dating space. Women are not going to do much. They're just going to accept or not accept. I think, and I'm 100% sure about this, that he's right because he's a master in what he does. So Mystery, the pickup artist from, the early 2000s, I think, maybe 2010s. I don't know exactly when he was, very famous, but he said something that I'm not a fan of his necessarily, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the best in the world. He said something very interesting. He said, you need an average of 7 hours with a woman in different settings for sex to be a possibility, for intimacy to be a possibility. And I think that's very interesting because that can also take a lot of pressure off you as a man, unless you're completely bonkers in your head, but it can take a lot of pressure off you, meaning just enjoy spending with her at least 7 hours and then and from there see where it goes, but don't pressure. And I think a lot of men used to porn and everything being so quick and computers, there's like, oh, she should sleep with me right the same day at the same place, whatever, she should be a whore. It's a lot of people, a lot of men have this in their mind, I believe. And I think that you can take that pressure completely off by just saying, okay, let's spend really nice 7 hours together with her, either on the same day, on the next couple of days, whatever. And you can do that with multiple women if you like multi-dating, whatever, if that's you. And then just see where it goes. So after, there's absolutely no sexual pressure whatsoever. You're not even truly signaling like super interest or something, but just like spending time with her for 7 hours, and then you'll see where it goes. And he said, it's a little bit, he said that anything that's before that is pure luck. And I'm pretty sure he knows what he's saying. And that's it for now. So I wish you a very nice day. And if I have more, I'll let you know.